Cool, guys.
Hey, Rabbi, quick one. What do you think of the egg for Passover? And I'm not referring to the Easter egg or anything like that, but the egg as far as like another extension of the meal. Am I bringing something up too late? It's too late over there for you now, isn't it?
I don't think the egg is part of the meal. The egg is usually put on the plate and it's burnt a little to describe the destruction of the temple. But this is just a custom. It has nothing to do with Passover. I know eggs are typically tied into the mourning process.
Reading that it was over Passover, you're supposed to have 2 meals. Is that correct?
Now, the notion of 2 meals is the regular Korban Pesach, at least from a biblical perspective, and the idea of a Korban Chagiga. A Korban Chagiga was the extra meal that people would bring, or the extra sacrifice that people would bring to Yerushalayim during that Chag to sacrifice. It says that every time you go to Jerusalem, you have to bring a special offering. And this was also eaten. So some say that this is illustrated by the egg as well.
I read somewhere that the egg, it makes up the second part of the meal. But I was thinking, like, I don't know, like, has this egg now come into Judaism from the Christians and sort of put itself on the table when it really is something? Because I did read as well, like, they try and tie it to the destruction of the temple or the lamb that's killed for Passover. They're trying to tie it to that, but it really doesn't tie to it. So I'm thinking, is it creeping in because of Easter, or it used to be a tradition because it made up the second part of the meal, but now it's crept in and it's just because of, that.
Yeah, I don't think so, because the custom of having eggs during Easter was started around the 17th century. And even, I know the Ramah mentions the practice of eating eggs on Passover, at least having them as a remembrance of the temple. And he lived in the 1500s.
It's not in the Mishneh Torah, I know that.
It's just a custom regarding the temple, and the egg's usually not eaten. It's usually burned and charred. I know.
Don't we do that with the chicken neck or the chicken bone? Or
that's supposed to symbolize the Korban Pesach. But, yeah. I mean, that also doesn't make sense either, because the Afikomen is supposed to be the Korban Pesach in symbolism. But back then, they didn't have a Passover plate in the middle to symbolize stuff. That's also like a new custom.
Yeah. I'm just a bit sus on the egg, that's all. I just don't.
I have a video. The name of the video is called, Is Hanukkah the Jewish Christmas? I think I demonstrated in the video that Hanukkah is the Jewish Christmas. How? Because what's the 25th of Kislev? The 25th of Kislev is the 25th of December of the calendar of that region.
Yes.
So the reason they chose that day was for the same reason that Catholics chose December 25th to say that JC was born in that day, in order to wean people from idolatry. Now, regarding Purim, can you guys look up what Mordechai means? So Mordechai means sent from Marduk. It's not a Jewish name. We don't find it anywhere else in the Torah. It's a pagan name, and Esther comes from Easter. Marduk and Esther, 2 pagan gods. These stories were very relevant to people of the time who weren't Jewish. They were also used to wean people away from idolatry. So only because something happens to have pagan origins doesn't mean that God can't use it and elevate it to a sanctified, even ethical level. So this is why, like, I've never been big on bashing Catholics because of things they happen to do that have pagan roots, because Jews used it also to help people get away from paganism. Right.
My definition says worshiper of Marduk.
Right. It's not a Jewish name. No one ever mentions this. The rabbis say her name is not Esther. Her name is Hadassah.
Doesn't the text say that, though, as well? It says, well, Esther, well, Hadassah.
Right. Yeah, like it bounces back and forth. It's not a coincidence that Beit Shammai would never accepted the book of Esther as part of the canon. These notions of recycling pagan customs and giving them an ethical meaning is for sure found in Jewish history, even in Tanakh. I mean, that's what the Rambam says, why God uses sacrifices, because that's how ancient man back then communicated with God. He had to use pagan tools in order to wean us away from unethical behavior. What do you think an etrog and a lulav resemble? They're clearly fertility symbols. Now, that doesn't mean that to us. God elevated that custom. So when we see other people who are not Jewish trying to do the same thing, we shouldn't be quick to say, oh, they're pagan. Clearly, the Roman Catholic Church has things that resemble paganism, but giving them the benefit of the doubt. The intention of the Pope back then wasn't to make the world more pagan, but in their mind to bring them closer to the God of the Bible. But we have to use equal scales. Why is Hanukkah considered the holiday of lights when it doesn't appear like that in the book of the Maccabees? The story of the cruise of oil is not in the book of the Maccabees. It's not even really in Talmud Yerushalmi. It's only in Talmud Bavli because of the winter solstice. December 25th, the 25th of Kislev, the winter solstice, the festival of lights. Come on, guys. I'm not saying that Judaism is pagan. I'm saying that there's nothing intrinsically pagan in itself.
Now, here's another question. We know halakha is important. Halakha is, Torah and halakha are the most important things in Judaism. Minhagim. Do you think the Rambam agree with a particular minhag, or he was really truly just a halakis?
In the first chapter of Hilchos Mamrim, he talks about the Beit Din Hagadol. He says, Beit Din Hagadol Sheber Yerushalayim Chem Iker Torah Shebal Peh, that it's the court in Jerusalem that is the source of halakha, of the oral law. And he says that this court, they're the ones who developed gezerot, takanot, minhagot, telling us what? That the only customs that are binding are the ones established or sanctioned by the Sanhedrin. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Rambam brings down many things that don't even appear in the Talmud as halakha. He brings down things of the Geonim. He brings down midrashim. In Hilchos Malachim, when he talks about the 7 laws of Noah, what does he say? He says 6 laws were given to Adam and the 7th law given to Noah. Is that a halacha or is that a medrash? So
it's a medrash.
For sure. But it still appears enumerated as halacha aleph, the halacha beis. So yes, the Rambam can't be trusted fully to know what the halacha really is, but it's definitely a great place to start. The highest level of learning is to know enough to be able to go to the Mishnah and learn halakha from there, because that is the halakha that the Tanaim kept, the rabbis who lived when there was a temple and a Sanhedrin, because the rabbis in the Gemara didn't have smicha, and they lived already when all that was abolished and destroyed.